Chut chut, welcome back to Han Took Shots First. This is Derek. Welcome to our free feed version of the show. This episode will feature the first half of our discussion on Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. The second half will be available in 2 weeks. If you want the full uncut show early, you can subscribe to the Patreon for Bad Movies Worst People, which is our other show, at patreon.com/worstpeople. For only $3 a month, you get extra episodes of that show, plus you'll get these episodes early and uncut. None of this waiting to hear the rest of the episode crap. Thank you guys for tuning in. Enjoy. Chut chut, Jack.
Chut chut, Derek.
Whew. That's
a little bit.
Some spotchka.
What vintage is that?
Welcome back to Han Took Shots First. I'm Derek.
I'm Jack.
And this week we're discussing Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Cringe.
Yes. That's not the working title. That's the one it should be.
Listening to Anakin talk, and all I could think was, God, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, there were times where I wasn't taking notes watching this, because most people have seen it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, well, I don't know. I was going to say you probably should, but I don't know.
1 hour and 7 minutes is the only thing to tune into. No, there's some things here I like, because, again, I'm a Star Wars apologist. This is my least favorite one. So I'm going to have to do a little more work, but I'm willing to do it, man.
And you gave Episode 1 2 lightsabers.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to get one short Yoda lightsaber.
One yaddle saber.
One tiny yaddle saber.
Every time you could hear it coming. Anakin would start talking to Padme, and I'm like, oh, here comes something cringy.
Yeah.
He is so fucking
The shifter
creepy
broke.
in this movie.
I like fixing things. It was simpler when I could just fix stuff. Why don't you fix your fucking shitty-ass attitude, bro?
Why don't you fix your acting?
He's a brat right from the beginning, too. I mean, early on, he's talking with Obi-Wan where he's like, I should be this and I should be that and no one's listening. And Obi-Wan's like, calm the fuck down.
Yeah, he's like, hey, learn your fucking place. I'm going to show you learn
He gets
place.
told that twice. Once by Obi-Wan and once by fucking Padme. Where she's like, hey, calm down. Learn your fucking place.
Shut the fuck up. How about that?
You're just a boy. I know you're 6'9", but you're a boy.
So George Lucas, I think we discussed on the last episode, not the best writer.
No.
And really not a good director of humans. But like the quote unquote subtle like foreshadowing of Darth Vader in this is so clunky. It's like, you know, if you did that, you'd be a dictator. Doesn't sound so fucking bad to me.
Well, maybe somebody should tell him what to do.
Yeah. It's just too much.
Would it surprise you to learn there was somebody else brought in to write the script with them because of the poor reception of Phantom Menace?
That would not surprise me.
And would it surprise you to learn that it was maybe a week to a month before they started filming that script was finished?
Like, that would also not surprise
insane.
me.
Would it surprise you to learn that he had Natalie Portman and Hayden Christiansen improv their dinner scene? You know, the one where he's like floating the fucking pear and
yeah.
He had them improv that because he hated the dialogue so much that he wrote. You know how bad your dialogue is for you to be like, hey, just fucking wipe it away and say whatever you want.
Hey, you two fairly inexperienced actors.
Yeah.
Why don't you? I mean, she had a lot more experience at this point.
She had some
been in
chops.
Leon
Yeah,
and stuff like that,
at least
but-
Leon the professional.
Yeah.
I call him Leon.
Leon.
Yeah.
So
We're
yeah, I
friends.
just looked it up. Jonathan Hales was the co-writer. He was also a writer on The Scorpion King.
The last thing that he did before this movie was in 81. So, I mean, like, it wasn't he was a working practice screenwriter.
He did do, it says he did some episodes of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Okay,
Which
true.
makes sense because a lot of the people in these movies were also in those movies because they're all in the Lucas camp.
Well, and George Lucas has said that was kind of a dry run for what he wanted to do with Star Wars. Not script, obviously, not anything, but like technology and tonally. Because this is, I mean, he's early shooting on digital.
Yeah.
Am I wrong with that?
No,
Like,
you're right. He was one of the early ones, especially in the big big budget community, because it actually surprisingly started more, not necessarily independent filmmaking, although it was a little bit, but like lower budget stuff, because it helps to lower your budget.
Yeah.
You know, you got to buy this equipment or rent this equipment, presumably
And
you don't have to buy film. You don't have to pay for processing.
And a benefit that he talked about was being able to look at the moments after, looking at the shot moments after, instead of waiting for dailies.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, oh, we have to go back and reshoot that because someone stepped in front of this, or that stupid little thing in the background wasn't right. You're looking at it and you're like, oh, somebody fixed that background
Well,
piece.
the good news here is there's never anything where you're like, that stupid thing in the background wasn't right, because all the stuff in the background was added later.
Yeah.
These rooms are,
there is, as far as I can tell, one real set.
Yeah.
And it's that fucking club where they go get the changeling Zam
they're
Weasel.
in some dirt.
Sure.
I don't know if that's a real set. I think they might have put a green screen and covered the floor in dirt, but
so they call it the volume. They shoot Mandalorian in, where it's a stage with like the
one of the most amazing pieces of technology ever
But how would
made.
you describe that? Like it's like
It's basically a 360-degree green screen stage, but it's not even green screen,
because
that's
the actors
thing.
can see it while it's there.
It's showing you what's there, and it distorts as the camera moves to recreate like the distortion of what the lens would see of the background. So it's really fucking cool. And on those shows, when they have stuff like ships or whatever, the bays, the doors, the things they're interacting with are really there.
Yes.
But the bay goes up into the screen, which is where the shot continues.
I bring it up because that was George Lucas's in-game dream that he wanted. Like what we got here is all blue screen and just fake. You can see it when actors can't. Like Obi-Wan, when he's in Camino, is just sitting in a fucking room
by himself,
and
that
with
makes
a wig
me think,
and a beard wig.
That makes me think the factoid. Well, I don't want to call it a fact. The piece of IMDb trivia that I found on the last episode about how Ewan McGregor said that most of his experience in this movie was just him walking into a room and looking up.
Yeah,
I feel like that's more of this movie, because half of his scenes are with the Kaminoans,
please do.
And the only time I saw it was in
please
subtitles.
cloner's not the preferred nomenclature. Kaminoan.
The clonerman pissed on my rug.
I didn't pee on your rug. Ton Wei peed on your rug.
But he's looking up at them for probably half of his scenes in this movie, and he's literally, like you said, in a room alone.
Or he's in a fucking diner with Dex, who's not there.
Yeah.
I've seen the behind the scenes. There's a guy off camera saying the lines, but there's nobody in front of him.
Oh, really? So even though they have Ahmed Best running around with a fucking McDonald's Jar Jar hat on his head, they can't have somebody in there with Ewan McGregor?
Could have. Didn't.
Speaking of Ahmed Best, we actually see his face in this
Yes,
movie.
we do. As the
I
character.
recognized him.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good on you.
I had to check it. I had to look it up afterward to make sure, but I was like, hey. So.
Yeah. I'll be honest, this is the first time I caught him. Because I've seen this. This is probably my least watched Star Wars movie for rightful reasons.
It's my second least watched, because I've seen it more than once, and I've only seen Rise of Skywalker once.
I think I've said this before, but I never got through Rise of... After the first time I watched it in theaters, I haven't been able to get through it in one sitting since. I either fall asleep or turn it off in anger. Like something happens, and I'm like, I'll come back to it. I'll watch them ride space horses on a fucking Star Destroyer. So
what's the point where you get mad? Is it where it says somehow the Emperor returned, and then you turn it off?
Yeah, that's part of it. But yeah, so it's Ahmed Best playing the character that he played in Mandalorian, and we saw him.
Oh, so it's the same guy?
It is the same. It's listed as that.
Cool.
So yeah, the name escapes me.
I don't remember, because it was the one episode. It was.
Well, he also had
It wasn't Boba Fett. No, it was Mandalorian.
There was also like a game show that he hosted that I never knew of. It was a Star Wars like show.
I heard about that after his appearance in Mandalorian, because people were like, oh, so this such and such Jedi guy is actually like canon now, even though he's from a game show, a Star Wars trivia show.
Yeah. Okay, so I was wrong. It's not the same character.
Oh,
He's playing a third one, because the Jedi Master is Kelvin Beck, and that is not the name that was listed. So I just assumed that funny name was his Jedi name.
Well, while we're talking about stuff that's not actually Star Wars but is now,
Go on.
people are really mad about all the newer stuff. And I'm asking you this because you might know, because they're like, well, there was all this EU stuff and you're just cherry picking or whatever.
Yeah.
Was none of this ever covered in the EU, this era?
This era is covered in the EU, just not as much because it wasn't loved. The original trilogy obviously had a lot more.
But I mean, like, because before these movies, when people were writing books, nobody ever talked about this? Like, because like George Lucas, did he take directly from those, or did he make this up and nobody got mad back then?
A lot of the stuff that you're seeing right now were on notes of his treatments.
Okay.
Where he never really had, he says, I had it all worked out. You're wrong. You had fucking whispers and ideas worked out.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned to you off air, he wanted Lando Calrissian to be a clone from a clone planet that had fought in the Clone Wars. So that's as far as he had gotten planned with clones. Also, could you just imagine a clone army of Billy D. Williams just fucking their way across this galaxy?
You know what's crazy? So this series had been out for, 15 years when this movie came out? And it's the first time you actually have like clones other than the mention in the very first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything after that was just about clones pretty much.
Yeah. It was like, well, that's a pretty cool writing device. Yeah, I don't think George Lucas had final say on all the books coming out. You could not print a word without his final say because he didn't want you to contradict something or so I don't think he let anybody write.
Well, so
before.
the story that I've heard about that, which I heard the same thing. He got to approve everything,
but he didn't read shit.
But yeah, some of the writers have said like anything you submitted, he approved. It was basically like I don't think he was checking for contradictions so much because there are contradictions. I know less than you, but I've heard it on other podcasts.
Yeah.
There are a lot of contradictions in the EU, especially when it comes to the EU versus the movies.
Yes.
Even the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, not even counting the stuff now that's after all that was quote unquote, deleted or canceled.
Legendized, whatever you want to fucking say.
Um,
Which I got to say, dude,
and
Disney was smart to do that. It hurt. It hurt to have a lot of these stories taken away. Like, I hated it at first.
Yeah.
But it was so bloated.
Oh, I have other friends who are like that. The guy I rent my house from, he's basically like, man, fuck Star Wars. And he read like every book. But he's one of those people. He's like, I spent so much of my life reading all these books and all these comics and playing these games. And now you're telling me I wasted my life?
Hey,
and I'm like, hey, spoiler alert. You were already wasting your life.
I say life well spent, man. Fucking talking about Star Wars, watching Star Wars, having a cat on my lap, reading Star Wars. I'm having a great life now. But
as long as it's not one of those space cats from later in this movie.
Oh, God, no. But yeah, like I think that it was something that had to be done, man. I mean, they would have been trying to release these movies like, I know what happens, or that's not how that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not my Jason.
Exactly. I 100% agree with the decision. I understand why people are upset.
Yeah.
But when I first heard about it and I had a bunch of friends who were mad, I was like, hey, welcome to my world, the world of someone who reads comic books.
Yeah. How many times have you had something taken away?
Yeah, we get completely rebooted. I mean, it wasn't a thing for a long time. They would retcon and stuff. But once they started doing the reboots, it's like every 4 years, the entire universe is rebooted.
Because
so
it got bloated.
I
mean, Marvel Comics, just to mention one of them, has been around how long? How long have they been writing Captain America?
Yeah, well, and then there was all that, and then they started branching into, and it's always been a concept, the multiverse thing.
Yeah.
But that was just their way of writing like a story that was a one-off and being like, well, that's not this universe.
It would give you, as an author, a chance to write your version of the Falcon.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's not the Falcon that everyone else knows. This is just my interpretation of it for this universe.
And it's the problem was, and it's the same problem that those movies are having, and this isn't a Marvel podcast, but I'll go into it real quick. Once you dive into the multiverse, like once you really embrace it, like you don't just have it like, oh, that movie and that movie, which looks like maybe what James Gunn is doing with the new DC stuff. But
it's not a DC podcast either, pal.
I know, but I'm just saying he's kind of like, well, they're all going to be labeled like this is one of these and this is one of these, so they are separate.
Yeah.
But what always ends up happening is there's some author who comes along who's usually pretty good at it, writes a crazy multiverse story, but then everything after that becomes more and more embroiled in the multiverse to the point where like you can't even read your storyline without having to read 7 others for it to make sense, which is the same thing that's happening with all those movies. That's not this. But we started with a shot, so now I'm rambling.
I do want to touch on something real quick, and let's get into the actual movie. There is a precedent set that makes me nervous that Star Wars could easily have multiverse. We're fast forwarding a whole bunch, but you saw Ahsoka.
Yeah.
That fucking
when they jump to the other universe.
There is
other galaxy.
There isn't not even that. When she's talking with in the World Beyond Worlds, when she's talking with Force Ghost Anakin.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there is something that you could easily write multiverse and be like, well, the Rey movies do exist, but not for you, old school male toxic Star Wars fan. You can have your Star Wars. Midichlorians don't exist in this universe, and I don't like it. I don't fucking like it. It works for Marvel fine. You don't need to do it.
But does it?
It works
It was. It always works to a point, and then everything just falls apart.
exactly. But so yeah, that's all I want to say about
The Flash
that.
2023.
Oh God, worse CG in that movie than this movie.
I've only seen the trailer and clips, and I understand. Yes, different universe. This universe. Speaking of episode 9, introduces the main villain now, the new main villain, or I guess second to the villain in the scroll. Just like episode 9 is like, hey, Emperor's back, bro.
Somehow he's back. Somehow there's an emperor.
So we find out about Count Dooku is leading the Trade Federation in their thing, but then when the movie starts, no one knows that.
Yeah, we know, but nobody knows that, and nobody believes it when they do hear.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a terrible way to kick off the movie, because it's like, here's some information no one else knows, which happens a lot in movies, but it kind of takes away the like oomph of like when Obi-Wan finds Dooku with all these the bankers and the Trade Federation and
The Techno Union.
The
Don't
Techno
forget
Union.
the Techno
Yeah.
Union.
you know, all the big corporations.
Uh-oh, the Techno Union's coming.
I know it's supposed to be like the Microsoft of this universe,
Yeah.
but the Techno Union definitely sounds like a group.
Yeah, especially with this guy having like a fucking turntable on his chest.
Well, and he talks and has to like remix himself to be able to finish.
He's auto-tuning, dude. This is the fucking T-Pain of Star Wars, man.
So we're on Coruscant, which I still maintain does not look great. It looks so much, I mean, and I understand it's 20 years later, but it looks so much better in Andor. It looks like a city. This Coruscant looks like a less rendered, less finished version of Fifth Element, which came out like 5 years earlier.
Yeah. It does not look great, but you know what? I love the idea behind it. I like what they're trying to do. You can see the glowing lights are like veins running through this planet.
Yeah, and like I said, it's I understand that it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but like
You betcha.
it doesn't look it's 2002 CG, but again, they did it in Fifth Element 5 years earlier, and they steal the Fifth Element car chase in a minute, so they might as well have just taken that scene from Fifth Element and like put in Hayden Christiansen's head on Bruce Willis.
Just a fucking cutout, like a fucking South Park Canadian, just flapping
Padme's
Hayden
in the back. And
Come on, guy, I gotta chase down this changeling. Nah, I'm not your Jedi, pal.
So we land on the planet. It's the Nabooian.
Yeah, we
ship.
got this fucking shiny, and I had said this earlier. This ship design is cool for another movie. This should be the Red Skull ship, or plane. Like this looks like it's trying to make.
This could be in Dune.
This
the
looks
old
like
one.
it's trying to make a voyage from Germany to New York. Like it doesn't look like it's going to fucking Coruscant. Too shiny.
Oh, hey, that's not the last time Hitler's going to come up in this episode.
You bet your sweet ass it's not.
But they get there, and there's a new head of the guard. I thought it was supposed to be the same character,
It's
but a
supposed
different
to,
actor.
it was supposed to be
I thought he was Captain something with a P in the
Typho.
first one.
Panaka. It was sorry. I guess I misspoke on it. It was they wanted it to be Panaka.
Oh,
and the actor demanded I read the script first. A, it wasn't ready, and B, George Lucas didn't want anything getting out, so he's like, "No, I can't let you read the full script. I'm sorry, it's not done."
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Well, fucking find somebody else then. You can't. What are you gonna do? Write out Panaka?" Yeah. Yeah, you
We
are.
replaced you with a one-eyed guy named Nick Fury. But I just love the idea.
Typho fever.
You said that George Lucas told him the script wasn't done. I think it was more like, nobody's allowed to read this. It's a secret.
No, he didn't tell him
want
that.
to tell anybody it was
He
done.
didn't tell him it wasn't done. I'm saying that's why he couldn't show him. So you are right. George Lucas like, no, it's a secret. Like, it's not a secret. It's not done.
We're only going to give you 2 pages every day. These are the pages that we're shooting, and it's not because it's not done.
Also, I will accept any notes you have on the dialogue. Just use a little red marker. Do you have a red marker? Can we get him a red marker?
But it starts with Typho being like, they land, and he's like, guess I was wrong. There's
All
no
right.
danger. And the whole fucking ship goes up. And this isn't Keira Knightley, is it?
No.
But it's the same character.
Yes.
Okay.
This girl, I ended up finding one thing she's been in, and it was Club Dread. Like, that's the only thing I knew her in. She's been in other stuff, but
Was
I
she
knew her.
have a name, or was she just island partier?
No, it was Zoe or Zoe, depending if there's umlauts. Don't get me
my wife
started.
will. My wife
don't
will
get
get
me
on
fucking
you about that.
started
But
on
I
that.
guarantee you, in that movie, it was Zoe.
How much do you know that? How well do you know
I've
that movie?
seen it a few times, but I don't remember
The
her
fan
character.
that Bill Paxton gets inside information on. He's like, didn't I see you in Phoenix in third row? Yada yada. That's her.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. She looks exactly like this
So what
other
are your
actress.
credits? Well, I was in Star Wars Episode 2 and
Hey, I fucking love Club Dread.
I know, but that's you don't lead your audition with I was in Club Dread.
You do if you're in the Broken Lizard gang.
I guess if you're trying out for like a Judd Apatow comedy or something, it would
Yeah.
work. But so the body double dies, and she's all sad about it. Padme.
I like how the lady was like, I failed you. It's like, no, I think you did exactly what she wanted you to do. You died for her.
And that's what Typho says, right? He's like,
Yeah.
look, you got to do your job. She did her
She did
job.
hers.
Let's bounce.
Yep. And then in like the next scene that they're walking in, there is another clone body double, handmaiden, I guess they're called.
Yeah.
That looks exactly like this other chick.
So is that what Handmaiden's Tale is? Is it Handmaiden's Tale, a Star Wars story?
Yeah, it's all about dying for fucking Padme. So,
I guess that's why, like, I noticed in the first one, like, they had Keira Knightley being her or whatever, but they all kind of look like her.
yes.
So it's
that's
like whoever.
the idea.
Yeah. She
Next woman up.
Yeah, she can just Saddam Hussein this.
But the chick that they have for the next body double looks exactly the same, but it's you might know her. Her name is Rose Byrne.
I recognize that name.
She did Insidious. That's like the biggest thing she did that I can say. Bridesmaids, Neighbors.
Okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about. She's the wife in Neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
She even
yeah.
plays herself in The Boys.
I could see that. I could see her being Natalie Portman-esque.
Like she ended up. This is, I think, her first thing, and she ended up blowing up from this, or
Okay.
after this, not because of. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, because she's barely in this, right?
Yeah.
She's in this scene. I think that's about it.
I think she has maybe 2 speaking lines.
Which, if they have another body double, why don't they have the body double do the scene later so we can't blame the entire series on Jar Jar Binks?
Because George Lucas loves to pretend that he's clever. He's like, look, oh, she's got a body double, a couple body doubles. She's got a body triple.
In the first movie, the body double was doing a lot of speaking for Padme or for whatever, the actual queen. So, like, when they have Jar Jar go to the Senate later, why didn't they just have her do it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess because he knew everybody was going to blame it.
He did get promoted at the end of the last one.
Yeah, I understand that he's a senator, but it's just, I don't know. It's just weird. I just thought about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, like maybe he just didn't want everybody to go, well, I guess Padme should have died because it's her fault this entire fucking series happened. Now they can go, man, fuck Jar Jar some more. Because he does 2 things in this movie. He meets the Jedis at the elevator.
Yep.
And he puts Palpatine in supreme power.
Yeah.
That's all he does in this movie.
He's perfect for
Which
it.
is great because he's barely in it. Too much still. But
I agree with that statement.
Obi-Wan and Anakin meet with Palpatine in like this Xbox 360 Mass Effect room. Like Palpatine's office was.
I want to try and do
worst.
something real quick. Sheev, when he's the senator, and Palpatine when he's in the cloak. No, because he's Sidious. Never mind. Cut that. Sheev just sounds so much less threatening. Like Palpatine sounds threatening, right?
I mean,
what if I told you, hey, we're going to lunch with Palpatine? You'd be like, oh my God, that sounds. I don't want to have lunch. Hey, we're having lunch with Sheev. Oh, I bet he'd pay.
I feel like George Lucas naming some of these characters like Sheev, Palpatine, reflects other choices he made, like the bankers and the Trade Federation being evil. I think he's kind of racist.
You think? Oh, you think so?
But I mean, against like not just clearly with the Trade Federation, there's Asian people, but then it's like the bankers union and Sheev is a bad guy. I'll leave you guys to fill in those blanks, but I don't know.
And I'd said the name of the guy that was Darth Plagueis was Ego Damascus or something like that. I can never remember his full name, but
and for George Lucas to say that he already had these written is such bullshit based just on the names.
Yes.
Because these names are so lazy. Anything that's not from the original trilogy. I mean, and then we've got Sheev and Shmi. It's like he was just sitting there stoned and he's like, all right, guys, Sheev, Shmeev, Shmi.
All right,
Shmi is me.
Shmi is me. You know the bald chick that's with Sheev Palpatine and Masamada when he's like, oh, so you probably don't know Masamada. The 2 people that are with him when he's like the Supreme Chancellor
The devil
dressing.
guy and the other one?
The devil guy, the blue, and then the bald chick
Yes,
that looks
yeah,
like she's
okay.
frozen. So her name is Sly Moore. Like that's another just lazy ride. Like, I'm more sly. And by the way, that is Ray's grandma.
Ray. Oh, Ray.
Ray Skywalker, dude.
I was like, it's like Raymond. Like everybody loves Raymond.
Oh, my brother's a Sith Lord. Deborah, get my lightsaber.
Man, his mom's gonna be pissed.
You don't know the power of the dark side, Raymond.
That's okay. We won't go into that. I was like, that's what happened. They do mention one of the big things in this entire series that's always bothered me. Right away, it's who they're talking about who could have done the attack. Palpatine says he thinks it was spice miners from Naboo, and it always drives me crazy because obviously there's a lot of borrowing from other things in this. We all know that George Lucas was a huge fan of Flash Gordon.
Are you going
and
into
all
Dune
that.
right here?
But Dune,
yeah,
the spice thing being a drug, like throughout this and later, and then I mean, is the pit of Carcoon? That's like a worm thing.
Yeah, the Sarlacc pit.
It's a worm thing in the re-released versions, and the original is just a hole.
You should actually look up, everybody listening, do yourself a favor and look up what like the Sarlacc under the pit. It's a whole thing that you would. It doesn't look the way you think it would.
We do see like a worm head come out though, right? Or is
Yeah,
that just on
in the added
asteroid.
in the added features.
Okay, but he's got the big worms, and he's got the spice, and he's got the desert planet, and
The big worms are different. I'm gonna forgive him on the big worms because I
All right.
mean,
Big worms.
It's definitely they're not as important. George Lucas is infamous though for you can call it borrowing, you can call it paying homage, you can even call it like stealing if you want. It's whatever you want to say. With you already mentioned a few of them, but I mean,
I know
even,
Flash Gordon was like a major influence.
Yes, there are so many. I mean, some of these are like Kurosawa films.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that's a classic.
3PO and R2D2 are based off of the two fools from a movie I cannot remember. It's got the word castle in it, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, it's basically a space western.
Yes,
And
but it's also
westerns-
Space Samurai.
Well, and westerns are heavily influenced by samurai movies. I mean, a lot of the most famous westerns are just remakes of samurai
Magnificent
movies.
Seven.
Yeah.
Yep.
High Plains Drifter, like the guy coming into town and helping the two different groups fight each other to destroy each other.
You're gonna
That's
hear us-
Yojimbo. I mean,
Yeah, and you're gonna hear us definitely talk about Mandalorian being lone wolf and cub.
oh,
I mean,
100%.
you can't
Yeah.
not. But yeah, I'm trying to. There's something very specific that he used as. It was a book that came out before the original trilogy, but not long before.
Oh, it was Joseph Campbell's
No,
Hero's Journey.
not Hero of a Thousand
okay.
Faces. Yes, he used that. Like that was his.
That's the one you hear about all the time. with-
Yeah, there was another one. It was a serial, and they had the same. Instead of Force users, they were called like lensmen or lens masters. I don't know, dude.
No, that's where you get glasses.
That's where do you think they got it? But yeah,
Ooh,
the
so they're
spice.
Sith Lords is what you're saying.
Spice. I do think that all optometrists are dark users. But this in the EU, spice was so much. There's like 16 different types of spices. You know, some are just used for cooking. Some make
Well, there's at
you
least 11.
Say this spice went to
11
11.
herbs and spices.
Darth Sanders here. But yeah, the spice. I get it.
He's the first Sith Lord that just wears white.
I'll throw them off. They will never expect me if I'm not wearing dark clothing. Because I mean, once you become a Sith, you have to advertise by wearing dark clothes.
And no one ever knows. They're like, man, that guy started wearing black hoods a lot.
Dude, that's why it was so dope in episode 6 when Luke came out like that. I was like, oh shit, did he dabble in the darkness?
Yeah. Well, the Jedi's always wear, I mean, his is darker in that. They always wear brown.
Yes. And that is a brown cloak. It just looks black
Yeah.
on certain definition.
Padme, all these names.
Dude, PPSS, all this.
Padme
Alphabet gang.
is like, hey, I think it was Dooku, not the Spice Miners. And I think it's Mace Windu who's
Mace.
like, no, there's no way. He used to be a Jedi.
There's no way he could kill somebody. He used to be a Jedi. You are dumb.
Also, he used to be a Jedi. There's your first clue.
Yeah, so you're saying he stopped being a Jedi?
Yeah, as the Jedi, like the really nice mafia, like you can quit.
But do you know why he quit the Jedi? Because it wasn't to
No.
go be a Sith Lord initially. He went to go like take back his familial kingdom, I guess we'll call it.
Oh, that's why he's a count.
He's a count. Like that's not just a clever bad guy title, because his bad guy title is Darth Tyrannus.
Right, which I heard that early in this movie. Well, early-ish.
Yeah,
It's a long movie.
dude. It's like 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
Fuck.
I think it was 2:20-ish.
Too many
but yeah,
notes.
still. On Camino, I think it's Django says that he met a guy named Tyrannus. And I was like, well, that's not a bad guy.
Yeah. Tyrannus, whose master is Sidious, they're probably up to some, good things here.
And it's not till the end you find out that that's Dooku. I mean, You know.
You do know, but they don't. They don't.
They act like it's a mystery. But what's his good guy name besides Dooku? What was his Jedi name? Do you know? Was it
Probably
still
just Dooku. It'd be Master Dooku.
Okay.
Or whatever, because you don't lose your name.
Yeah, I know. I
You
just
just
didn't
lose your
know if it was like
possessions.
because now he's Count Dooku. If he was, do you think he went with Count Dooku as like an homage to Christopher Lee's like Hammer days?
Is that his heavy metal band?
Hammer Films was the British film studio that did like Dracula, Frankenstein,
Oh,
all that stuff.
gotcha.
Not the Universal monsters that we know better here, but same things, but over there.
We gotta
and Christopher Lee was in a lot of those. Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing.
We got to talk about Christopher Lee being a fucking absolute badass.
He's great. The worst part of Christopher Lee in this movie, and it's not his fault, I don't think, is when he's riding the speeder at the end.
Not his fault.
He doesn't look. He's just like, I don't know. I've never been on a motorcycle. He's just sitting on this thing in a room, like, I guess I lean.
Okay, get on this thing and pretend like the wind is whooshing past you.
It's act like it's a jet ski. A what?
Oh, what did you say? I'm going to say this about Christopher Lee. He also was in a heavy metal band. He also fought in World War II, and he also was Saruman in
Yes.
Lord of the Rings. I bring all this up because just to give you a badass moment, I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this, but there's a scene that gets deleted where Grima Wormtongue stabs him in the back and he dies, right? In Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I was like, who the fuck's Wormtongue in this?
Grima Wormtongue. Sorry, it's a tangent, but it's going to pay off.
Okay.
So he gets stabbed in the back by his lackey, and during the scene, Peter Jackson, was like, "You just got to sound a little bit more real than that one. You're getting stabbed in the back, But so he's like, "No, you got. It sounds a bit more like this." And Christopher Lee goes, "I'm gonna stop you there. I know what it sounds like to stab a Nazi, and I've heard him bleed out. Like, I know what that sound is, so please allow me to do it." And I'm paraphrasing it. I'm butchering it.
Yeah.
But the whole cast was like, "Oh damn." Oh,
That's
damn.
right. This actor's killed people.
This
for
guy's
real.
killed people.
Not like Alec Baldwin, but like a
he
real
was-
actor.
He killed people, and he's less of a monster than Alec Baldwin. Do you know that he was almost in Star Wars before this?
No.
He was offered the role and turned it down for Grand Moff Tarkin.
Okay.
His friend Peter Cushing took
Yeah.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good because,
But that's the biggest reason he took this. He's like, I'm not going to not be in Star Wars.
well, that's good because Christopher Lee is still alive. Well, at least he was at the filming of this. I don't know if he still is.
I believe Christopher
I
Lee's
think he
still
is.
alive.
Pretty sure he is.
I'm going to take
Peter
a little
Cushing,
peek while you
long
talk.
dead.
Yeah, rest in pictures, Peter Cushing.
Yes. And for people who don't know, Jack and I have another podcast with my wife called Bad Movies, Worst People. There will be a movie coming up soon on there. I have to mention it because it stars Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Vincent Price.
Can't wait.
All together in one movie.
So also rest in pictures, Christopher Lee, 2015.
Okay.
I mean, motherfucker was born in 1922,
Yeah.
so he would be
102. I was like, what year is it?
yeah, he'd be 102 right now.
All right. Well, you know what? Not surprised then.
Yeah, I just forgot what year it was.
He had a good run. 90 something,
Yep,
93 years old.
absolutely, badass motherfucker.
So it turns out all you have to do is pretend to be a monster your whole life, but actually be a decent dude as far as we know.
Yeah.
And you can live to 93.
I've never heard anything bad said about this guy.
Palpatine assigns extra security to Padme in the form of our two main Jedis. But like Yoda gives him this look right here, right? Like, you're up to something. Like,
Even
what's
Mace.
the point of this? And he does it later too. He looks at him. There's a couple times where he's like, man, this motherfucker.
This motherfucker right here. Even Mace is sitting still, like he strokes his chin and kind of like, He doesn't say anything. He doesn't come to anything, but he sits longer than everybody else.
So you would know better than I. I don't know if it's addressed in the movies. I know that Palpatine like has apparently like created Anakin and everything.
Yeah.
Right? That's the midichlorian thing. But like, so he's directing him at this point because he knows if he goes off alone with Padme, it'll fuck him up some more.
100%.
Okay.
He's trying to get this dude to form attachments because the longer he stays with a Jedi, the more he becomes a Jedi, like
Yeah.
just disconnected and detached.
Although,
which I got a lot to say about
at
that.
no point in this movie is he ever a good Jedi.
Not at all.
I mean,
He's not.
since the first one, that was their problem, right? He's too attached to his mother because he's too old or whatever.
But here's
but
the
like,
thing is, being a Jedi sucks, dude. Like their idea of detachment is wrong. It shouldn't be that you, Derek, aren't allowed to find love and like be with somebody. It's that when that love is over, whether it be breakup or death, that was the extent it was supposed to run, and you need to understand that was the will of the Force.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean shut yourself off and let your slave mother die. Like, there's no way the Jedi should have been like, hey, let's get this slave boy, let's leave his mother in slavery to die and let him just fester on that. No.
Hey, she lives a good life kind of until she dies.
Until she dies.
Miserably.
But still, they didn't know that.
But like, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I also kind of get where they're coming from, although I always thought it was weird.
I just think they went too extreme.
It's because, like, yes, they should be able to go, okay, that's it, it's over, move on. But they know, maybe from experience, because I don't know a lot about the old Republic.
Yeah.
But like, or the High Republic.
The High Republic is encouraging what I'm talking about.
Okay,
the High Republic was like, go have a girlfriend and have babies, but just know, like, the Force comes before your family. Kind of.
And I think that then informs what I was thinking is like, it goes to, they used to be like that, and then this happened in the past, and they're like, you know what? How about no attachments? Because some people couldn't control it.
As far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong.
I mean, I'm filling in blanks. I'm just trying to guess how they got.
This
where they
is
are.
this Sheev Palpatine, Darth Sidious is the first in like 1,000 years to be a credible threat. Like, there's probably been some schisms and whatnot, but this is the first, like, oh, shit.
But I mean, if they're making movies about the High Republic, there was some drama back then, probably involving Sith.
Sure.
So I mean, like, it was probably not necessarily as bad as this, where like the whole galaxy.
I think that's
like,
what I'm getting at.
A Jedi fell in love with someone, they were killed, and then he turned into a Sith because of his attachment, maybe in the past, and that's why they're like, you know what? No attachment, because some people can't handle that shit, and we don't know until it's too late.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean,
you should be able to monitor
ridiculous.
this. You should be able to watch when Mace Windu and Yoda know that these Tusken Raiders got slaughtered by Anakin. They're like, oh, something dark happened. You pull his Jedi card right now. Like, this guy is on watch. Like, this is like genocide junior.
And when he does it, he reveals it to Padme like right away at that point, and she's just like, man, that sucks, but I love you anyway.
I can fix him.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom, I found a damaged fuckboy lightsaber.
Look, he's got a speeder out there. It's pretty cool, right? He just pulls up and honks his horn, but
it's cute the way he makes me pay for stuff. Tax season's coming around. We're gonna get real friendly.
But at this point, like, Palpatine isn't even hiding his condescending bullshit anymore. Like, he's clearly evil.
Yeah.
And again, that's probably the direction of George Lucas not knowing how to direct humans' emotion.
Yeah.
But like, the whole thing is he's like,
or writing.
I can't remember his exact line, but he's just like, oh, I really hope nothing happens, or something like that.
It'd be a shame if you were killed.
Yeah. It's like, dude, come on.
What? Did you just evil laugh? No. Note to self, wait till they're out of the room.
Well, then we have Anakin hanging out with Padme on the ship.
Yeah, they take the elevator. Yeah, so Obi-Wan and Anakin are charged with watching her.
Yeah, and it's one of the first really cringy lines from him.
And this is where he's being bratty to Obi-Wan, like, I should be able to take my test now.
Beeboo, beeboo. A lot of my notes for him have a sad face crying next to them.
He's just he's a fucking emo kid in a galaxy far, far away from emo. He's mad that there's no My Chemical Romance to listen to, man.
I'm sure they'll be in one of these
but
movies.
Yeah, it's
or TV shows.
It's creepy. I mean, he's just, there's a line coming up because she doesn't want, so here's the big thing. Anakin thinks that they're there to find the killer. Obi-Wan thinks they're there just to protect her. Yada yada, arguments. They end up, Anakin and Padme decide to use her as bait to catch who's doing this. And one of the lines he says at one point was just like, oh, she turned the cameras off. I don't think she liked me watching her. No fucking shit.
Oh, and there's a thing right before that when she first sees the two of them. And by the way, this is when Obi-Wan is 100% looking like Jesus.
Uh-huh. Dude, we're talking about white savior Jesus, the fucking son, the two sons of Tatooine behind him. I know we're on Coruscant, but...
But there's when she first sees them, she recognizes Anakin eventually somehow.
She doesn't smell him.
She doesn't look anything like this kid, or
Yeah,
he doesn't
dude,
look anything like that.
Jake
kid,
Lloyd
but,
turned into a fucking Frankenstein. It's huge.
But she's like, oh my goodness, you've grown. And his line, so have you grown more beautiful. And then she has to like wipe drool off her face.
And he's like, I mean, for a senator, I mean, I got a boner. I'm growing right now. Lightsaber ignition. Sorry, it just goes off sometimes.
Sometimes I can't control it. My lightsaber goes on early.
It ignited too fast. I'm so sorry. Usually I can duel longer than that.
That's the duel of the fates. Will you have a baby or not? Oh, turns out we had two.
Don't come. No. don't come. Pull out.
But she kind of tasks them with finding who's trying to assassinate her.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan's like, no, that's not what the council said. And Anakin immediately like, well, yeah, we'll do it.
It's
We'll
implied.
do it.
It's implied.
Yeah, they implied it by sending us here. No, when they sent you there and told you your orders, that's what they implied.
Well, but they said it with their eyes, Derek. You weren't looking at Mace Windu's eyes.
If that's what happens in the military, it explains a lot of the mistakes.
Yeah.
Well, you see, he told me to do this, but with his eyes, he was saying, kill the civilians.
Yeah, I want you to secure that town. Kill all civilians. You got it, man. You heard the general. You heard the way the general's eyes said
It's
that.
fucking Dolph Lundgren being like, look, they said secure the village, so I made an ear necklace.
Oh, you're Universal Soldier. Yeah, you betcha that's what happened.
I heard him say, with his eyes, he said, make an ear necklace.
Genocide is implied, guys.
And then he's talking to Obi-Wan, though, when she's asleep, and he's just crying more. Like, this crying little fuckboy, like, she doesn't even remember me.
The dialogue is whiny, and so is the delivery.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not blaming. Hayden Christensen is not a good actor.
No.
But he's also new to it at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, he had been in some stuff that I just don't know.
What did I just watch? Hayden Christensen was in one scene at the very end. It was something with time travel.
Time Cop.
I'll remember. But it doesn't matter. It was like Hayden Christensen pulled up as like this little like paper boy.
Uh-huh.
And he sees the main character. I can't remember the movie, but he sees him and he's like, asks him a question, and Hayden Christensen turns around and you see it's this little kid. He's a little kid at this point on his little bike. And he looks and I was like, no fucking way.
I know
and
that
he
face.
was like, who, what? And I was like, do you know who that is? And she looks, she's like, I have no idea. I was like, that's fucking Anakin Skywalker.
And she's like, and who's that?
Fuck, I can't remember the movie. It doesn't matter. It's
I
not
hate
important.
delivering papers. They're so dry. The ink, it gets everywhere.
I remember what it was. It wasn't time travel. It was In the Mouth of Madness, John Carpenter, starring Sam Neill.
Okay.
He ends up going into this like town that's not a real town, that like doesn't really exist, but he's there. And then after the whole thing is over, the town is gone, and he asks the kid like, hey, do you know where so-and-so is? And the kid's like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. And that's Hayden Christensen.
And
anyway.
So like I said, he hasn't done much.
We meet Jango Fett kind of for the first time. We
Yeah.
hear Tamora Morrison
Uh-huh.
for the first time in this series.
By the way,
and
we
not
can
for
just
the
call him
last.
Tam. That's a very okay nickname for him.
Tam Tam?
Tam. No, just don't make it weird.
Tammy? Does he hang out with the T-Rex?
Tammy and the T-Rex. It's just Tamora Morrison riding on Clever Girl.
Tammy and the Bubba.
Tammy. Just say Boba Bibba. Say it again.
But we hear his voice for the first time, and not for the last time, and not for the first time if you watch the prequel or the original trilogy after this movie came out.
Yeah,
if you
so
time travel.
So if you don't know what he's talking about, George Lucas once again changed some things in the original trilogy. He replaced actor Jeremy Bulloch, who is the voice and body for Rest in Pictures, by the way. He's the original Boba Fett. They replaced all of his dialogue with Tamora Morrison.
Which is just, I get what he's doing. He's trying to create a
Yeah,
continuity. I mean, and it's probably more for the young kids than it even is for him. Like young kids who saw these first.
We're smart enough to know, as a viewer, like, you didn't have this in mind then, but you do now. I don't need you to change it. I get it.
Yeah, some 8-year-old who this is like their first Star Wars, which if you're 8 and this is your first Star Wars, well, hopefully your second. That's sad. But
They're
I feel
out
like
there,
those
dude.
young kids would watch these, and then their parents would be like, oh, well, do you want to watch the original ones? They come next. And then they'd watch it and be like, that's not the right voice. How come that's not Boba Fett?
Also, his height's all wrong. Boba Fett's listed, at least on the initial toy, was 5'3". Tamora Morrison is not 5'3".
No, he's
So,
taller.
he's much taller. I'm just saying, the Boba Fett in the OG trilogy, and I had the fucking goddamn toy, and the back listed his height at 5'3", which made him just that much more badass. It's very Wolverine of
I was
him.
going to say, it's very short for a really bad guy.
Yeah.
Usually they're tall and intimidating.
Well, they already had Vader. We went the opposite route here.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the thing. You never really see him next to anybody except for Jabba and Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And Jabba, you can't really judge by height.
I got
and
no
Darth
comparison
Vader
there.
is 18 feet tall. So.
Close.
But I will say, and I mean, we don't see his face here, but I forgot, and then obviously it's 20 years ago, but I forgot how young Tamora Morrison looked.
You bet, dude.
Like, he is a handsome dude.
Yes, he is.
And
Well
I mean,
fit.
he's-
I'm not trying to make fun of him for be like the older Boba Fett that we got, because I mean we all gain weight and
Yeah.
things happen with your hair and this, that, the other.
Yeah, but he just, I mean, and he doesn't look that much worse, but he's just like very different.
Very striking.
Yeah.
Like it's
And when he has the mask on later, or the thing for driving his ship that they all have in these movies, they didn't have in the original trilogy.
No, there's some of this original trilogy. Han puts one on.
Did he?
Han puts, yes, you betcha. Don't get cocky, kid.
He put on oh, well, that's different. That's in the gunning thing. This is just when he's flying the ship.
Sure, I'm just saying they exist. Also, he's piloting the Slave One, or as you want to call it now, the Fire Spray. Disney got rid of Slave One.
Weird.
The ship is no longer called that. But slavery still exists in the Star Wars universe. I think it's a dumb change, but if you want to call it the Fire Spray, because that was the original model of the ship.
Maybe Boba Fett changed the name because he's a new guy now. He's a friendly dictator.
I don't give a fuck about that. Not my Star Wars. But
by the way, well, it's coming up here in a second, but the car, the convertible that fucking Anakin
Crazy
jumps
Taxi.
in. Besides Crazy Taxi, he jumps in this yellow like sports car hover thing. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm telling Jack, this sets precedence for those stupid scooters in Boba Fett.
Ugh.
Because there's weird, bright, shiny, like individual sports vehicles.
These still look more in universe than these fucking stupid modded ass mopeds, dude.
We'll get there.
It's a mod gang. Like we're talking running the streets of London in the 60s. The fucking mods.
Look, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, we will.
It.
Oh, we will.
I loved it.
I can't wait to talk to you
Also,
about
it just made me think, Wolverines.
Future Derrick is an idiot.
I don't mean Wolverines from Red Dawn.
No,
people.
he's doing a Scrubs
It's
reference.
a Scrubs thing.
But they are referencing Wolverines from Red Dawn,
yeah.
so.
But
by
yeah,
proxy.
I might be an idiot, but I'm watching Star Wars with you, including all the ones I hate. So
yeah,
that's already proven.
Yeah. No, so back to the head thing. It might just be very specific to piloting the Slave One. It's a heavily modified ship. This ship does things that other ships can't do or won't do.
Obi-Wan's wearing one too, but like a little halfy. His is more like the one that Han Solo's wearing.
Yeah.
Which when he first put it on, I mean, I saw those movies obviously in the late 80s or the early 90s when I was, younger, but like old enough to remember that stuff. And I remember seeing him do that and thinking like, oh, that's kind of like Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
So it made sense for a targeting
I think this is
computer.
just set dressing. I think somebody wanted to make this because, he's talking to the robot.
It might be a reference back to stuff George Lucas likes, because all I could think with Tamora Morrison's haircut in this movie and that headband on that like goes down through his jaw and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it's like a Masters of the Universe type costume, or
Yeah.
like the kind of stuff, maybe more like a Flash Gordon, which I never really watched, but like it looks like a science fiction 80s headdress thing, like a lot of the X-Men would wear in like the older X-Men comics, where they would have like those weird things. It's like, why aren't you just wearing a mask? It's just a leather strap that goes around their head and over their chin. Like,
what's that? Who's that for?
Yeah.
What's that doing?
But that's what it reminded me of. And then same with Obi-Wan's, although his is only half. We're kind of all over the place, people listening, but it doesn't matter. You watch.
You've seen this, yeah. I want to talk about some good points at some point in this.
Well, we'll probably.
I don't want to just be. I don't want to just be hating on.
I know
it.
there's good things. Most of the good stuff is just much later.
Oh, I am gonna get to sound design because it's still good, but this is like my least favorite sound. The Crazy Taxi scene where he's zipping through. This is the opposite of episode 1 Pod Race.
Yeah,
This is just not that.
There's nothing there, and that's the difference between like they're both obviously fully CG, but this is like this car dodging through a very computer-looking city surrounded by computer-looking cars versus the Pod Race where he's in like. I mean, they may have actually taken cameras through canyons and then just inserted the CG.
Yeah.
Because it looks like real canyons and it has like a sense of
there's more
claustrophobia.
There's more care on that what you're talking about than
Yeah.
the care we get right now. Even the actual prop that he's in is cheap looking, and it broke multiple times during shooting. Like Hayden Christiansen would just rip off one of the yoke. Just rip it off. Like, well,
George Lucas is like, look, we could afford Power Wheels. That's what we got, okay?
we're sponsored by Pow Power Wheels.
These are all very low budget movies, as you all know, because I only hire non-union actors and Ewan McGregor.
And Ewan McGregor.
But there's some stuff here where they're using Amidala as bait, like we talked about, and there's
Yeah.
another cringy Anakin line. Besides the I've like watching her sleep line.
She doesn't like when I watch her sleep, man.
I'd rather dream about Padme. Being around her is intoxicating. When he's talking about his bad dreams of his mom.
Intoxicating. Like he's got such just a dead delivery, man.
It's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. You never saw him turning to the dark side? You didn't see him being this possessive? Like
there's nothing good about him in these movies.
No.
Like, he's clearly turning bad the whole time.
Now I am going to give a little bit of credit somewhere, and it's not this movie. The Clone Wars cartoon does very well. I still recommend it. I know it's a weird animation. The first season's awful.
And that's the big thing for me is I've tried multiple times.
Yeah.
And I looked up like the correct viewing order because it's like watch the first episode of the first season and then watch the movie and then watch the second episode and then watch the 16th episode of season 3.
I don't even say do that.
I did that. And like the season 3 episode was a lot better. And then I
Yeah.
went back to season 1 and I was like, ugh.
But just, I guess to my point that I'm trying to make, and I'm getting there, is they actually show Anakin being a good Jedi, a great fucking soldier, a great warrior, and that was fun.
And that's the stuff I need to get to because in the first season, he is in charge of stuff, but he's still just this character. He's still just angry, whining, and yelling at Obi-Wan all the time.
Yep. That first season's rough for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. I'll get there one day.
You'll run out of shit to watch and just be like, I'll fucking put it on. Also, you have great surround sound. You've got a big, beautiful TV. That makes for a fun time to get a little high.
I just need to figure out where I was so I can just pick up from there.
Nope.
I'm not
Start
rewatching
over.
season 1.
Start over.
Ugh.
Put it on while you're editing, you nerd.
I
Go
can't.
on.
I have my headphones in.
Just put one in.
Listening to Star Wars and listening to us jib jab about Star Wars.
Yeah. Sounds like my kind of heaven.
Listen to the episode. It's half a sentence that's followed by silence because I edited wrong because I was like watching a lightsaber battle.
Damn it, Derek.
But that first season just got me, and I don't know if it changes later, but it's like every episode starts with like a newsreel, and it's like, you know, previously on an episode you didn't see, this happened and this happened.
No, that doesn't change. It's always like,
In a galaxy where Count Dooku was taking blah 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 blah.
Well,
Like,
I know
very-
that guy doesn't go away, but like the way of like jumping into each episode, like here's some stuff you would have liked to have seen but didn't. Now here's an adventure where nothing happens.
that stays.
That's too bad. I did hear that like the later seasons are some of the best writing of like any like action sci-fi thing ever.
You're not wrong. It does a great job of addressing things that we should have been shown in this movie and the next one, but we don't.
And I think that's the most jarring thing about the next one is it's just like, okay, well now you just know Anakin's a badass now, and I'm like, I'm not gonna marry sue him and say we didn't see him become a badass. It jumps from whiny baby to like gruff general.
There is a difference between Mary suing and not showing me what I want and we deserve.
Yeah.
We deserve to see the chosen one be just absolutely badass.
Yeah, and that could have been this movie. We didn't need all of this.
Yeah. This should be the Clone Wars cartoon that shows us him in battle. Like real quick, we should just open with like, we need a fucking clone army. Here it is for this reason. Not this. This is the dumbest plot in the fucking thing, by the way, is the Sifo-Dyas, Master Sifo-Dyas commanding the clone army being built is the dumbest plot.
Well, Master Sifo-Dyas does sound like a rapper, though. And when they first said it, I was like, they say Cypher Diaz?
Rick, you're right. Techno Union.
But so there's Jango Fett hires this assassin that's like the Fennec Shand.
Sam Weasel.
But it's like, do you know what these soldiers are, or are they just like an assassin's guild? Because it's the same head and mask or helmet and mask that
It's
Fennec
a similar
Shand is
design of
wearing.
Fennec Shand. I think this is going for more of a, I don't know, like Arabic cloth over the face than hers is more of an Asian armor. I don't know. I don't think
Well, that's just continuing the racism of Star Wars.
that would make sense. No, I think they're taking cultural cues and not necessarily, this isn't George Lucas. This is somebody set design, like that showed him I wanted to wear this and he's like, oh, looks good.
Okay.
You know?
I just figured maybe they were like an assassin's league or something because she's an assassin too.
I mean,
right?
there is a
So-
league of assassins and bounty hunters, obviously. Bounty hunters doing different things, but
Yeah.
I don't think there's any connection between Weasel and Fennec Shand.
Okay. She basically programs this droid to put these centipede things into Padme's room that I'm assuming are poisonous.
Oh, he tells you.
Oh, does he?
Jango,
Okay.
careful, they're very
Oh, that's
poisonous.
right. He does say that.
But they're in a glass tube, it's okay.
I was too busy checking how to like spell his name, so I just said it right.
Uh-huh.
I was like, it's not Timon. That's the guy
Tim.
that hangs out with Puma.
Oh, fucking
Pumbaa.
Tim.
Not Puma. I can't even say Timon and Pumbaa. I do like they're having a little conversation before they like feel the presence of the centipedes or whatever, and they're arguing about Palpatine, and of course, fucking Anakin is like, I don't know, he seems like a pretty good guy to me.
I could see some qualities I like about him. Also, Obi-Wan criticizes even Padme.
Well, all politicians,
Yeah,
which he rightfully
like,
should.
No one's safe. Yeah, like I think she's very good at making her benefactors happy or something along those
he says
lines.
that's how all politicians are, and we know she's different. She's the good politician. That's why we know this is a fantasy. But like, she's the good one who's
also,
really
there's a
there
woman
for
in
the
charge.
people. Because later on, when they're talking about the Senate and how Anakin thinks things should run, he says basically what they're supposed to be doing. He's like, well, they should talk about the problems and agree what's best for the people. And she's like, that is what we do.
That's what we do. Well, somebody needs to sit down and make them all agree.
Well, and it's not even just that. Like when
Maybe
she
it'll be
says
me.
we that's what we do, that's showing her like naivety, which I guess leads to why she still doesn't see the evil in Anakin. But like, she's surrounded by, I mean, it's basically lobbyists, right?
Yeah.
They don't have lobbyists where it's like corporations per se.
No, it is.
But I mean, we saw it in the first one with the guy that was Chancellor that didn't want to be in that movie. I can't think of his name.
Terrence Stamp.
Like the people whispering in his ears, and then he just does what they say, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
No, but it is corporations. It's mega fucking
I
corporations.
guess it is because it's
like
the bankers clan.
Can you imagine
the Trade
though,
Federation?
like real quick, just close your eyes and imagine Google in like 5,000 years, just owning space lines and planets and moons, and like you have to bow to the all powerful Google corporation. They're already pretty. I think of Amazon Prime in space.
They should have come up with a better name because bow to the Google empire.
Yeah, laughing's illegal. You can't laugh at Google. They own this fucking galaxy. It's illegal now. Google's a powerful
they've
word.
got those screens in your wall like 1984, and they're watching you.
Yeah.
Oh, we already have those in our pocket.
Yeah,
and Google owns them.
I signed yes on that. Fucking idiots.
But so the droid releases the bugs. They kill him, and Obi-Wan jumps out this fucking window like a psychopath.
Anakin's supposed to be the reckless one. And I'm like, he's learning it from watching you, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. Because he dives out of a fucking like 800th story window and just grabs onto this little droid. And I didn't remember what happened, but I'm sitting here going, well, it's going to self-destruct.
Why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Why would it be set to return home to sender, even if there's a Jedi attached to you? Like, bring that Jedi on down.
Well, it's old programming, and they had to write in all the if-thens, and there was no like AI thinking, you know. So
maybe this isn't a droid; it's a simple ass drone.
Yeah.
It has two tasks.
Well, it does recognize that they came in and it's busted.
Uh-huh.
Because it has that like green window thing that it does, and then it cuts the little hole. And as soon as it sees the Jedis and they see it, it's like, whoop. So
Scatter.
But yeah, so Anakin steals the convertible that proves that scooters aren't dumb. And then
He's wrong.
and then Weasel Shand shoots. She ends up shooting the droid.
Yeah.
So
Why not shoot Obi?
I guess she's like, he'll fall. It's
Maybe
fine.
she aimed at Obi and the Force was just like, no, droid.
That's another reason I was thinking of Fennec Shand, because she has this 18-foot long sniper rifle that these guys use, and I guess the Tusken Raiders have them too.
It's an old. Think of like, I mean, this is the equivalent of a Star Wars muzzle loader. It's a black powder rifle, but accurate and good. Like
it's a black powder laser blaster.
Yep. Hey, you've played Fallout. There's that one in Fallout 4. There's that one you got to crank up to shoot.
It's just got a hamster in there, and you got to wake it up. But yeah, so Obi-Wan falls, and then we have the Fifth Element scene, and this happens more than once in this movie where someone falls an ungodly amount, like 50 stories, and just grabs something and they're fine.
I'm gonna say Natalie Portman's poor vagina, because
I have that for later.
All right, so we'll get that. We'll talk about that woman's poor vagina later.
When she jumps like 4 stories onto that fucking
reek
bull horse.
Yeah, reek.
Right.
That's what I said. Yeah, dude, I just watch it. I've seen it so many
times. They let Tamora Morrison name that one?
His name is Reek.
It's Reek. No, I said Reek.
That's what I said, Reek.
I said it was Reek, like Reeked.
Like reek my lips. But yeah, like just that scene, we'll talk about it, but it's rough.
But so they're running away from her, and they're weaving in and out of these like flame stacks for no reason, because she's nowhere near them yet. He's just like trying to show off. I'm like, just go the shortest distance between point A and point B, straight line, homie.
Yeah, you know what? I got one rule. Drive it like you stole it because you did. This guy's not going to be able to. Dude, Jedi aren't lavish. So this is the equivalent of like, I got to commandeer that Corvette. You know, he went all fucking Ferris Bueller's Day Off parking lot attendant on this shit.
This is a good example, this scene, of the comedy that really doesn't work in this movie. Like, he's trying to inject some comedy, like in the original movies. But when he's like, well, it took you long enough to save me or whatever. And he's like, well, I had to find the right car with an open hood. And it's supposed to be like a quippy, like Lethal Weapon buddy cop thing. And it's not.
Bad delivery, bad dialogue in the first place.
Yeah.
Like maybe somebody could have saved that.
Yeah.
But not Hayden Christiansen.
Well, and the Jonathan Hale or whoever I said, I'm sure he came on and George Lucas was like, look, they sent you to help me, motherfucker.
Punch it up.
You can punch it up, but I'm going to fucking change it back.
Yeah.
I'm directing this shit. And that's when he falls 50 stories and then grabs onto the car. And that's after Obi-Wan already did it. But he grabs onto like a rail. I'm like, dude, you put your arms on that and you're ending up like the end of this movie.
So I will Star Wars explain this. They got the Force.
Yeah, I know.
We see it in a lot of animation because it's easier to do than have a stunt person do this, where you could use a Force push to break your fall right before you land.
Yeah.
Simple stuff like that. It's much easier. Like Rebels uses that a lot.
And I don't think, looking at what they did in this, I don't think that's what George Lucas was doing, because they're clearly just falling and grabbing shit. But someone later thought of that.
Yeah.
And now people just retroactively apply the logic.
Okay, I'm going to pitch something that everyone should read. It's called From a Certain Point of View. It is a collection of authors that explain away everything you'll complain about in Star Wars. Well, this doesn't make sense. They're all, well, from a certain point of view, this is it's so beautiful. We'll get there, but I will explain why the Death Star is the way it is.
Okay.
And it's from that book.
This is another thing that kind of annoys me. Anakin drops his lightsaber. It doesn't fall, though. It
flies
goes
backwards.
straight backwards, which I understand they're moving quickly, but it would also go down. But it goes straight backward into Obi-Wan's hand, which, I mean, I guess Force.
Use the Force.
You can't complain about anything in these movies.
I won't let you.
I'm complaining about this. The Force.
It is the biggest plot hole fixer ever.
Why does Padme suddenly love him? The Force. Oh, that's.
Oh, I do think though. I do think that he's accidentally like fucking using a latent dark side power to corrupt her. I really do think he's not on purpose influencing her.
So it's the Star Wars version of like gaslighting.
Yes.
Well, you always loved me.
Yeah, this is the fucking Star Wars Spanish Fly.
So they crash and we get a foot chase, which is a little better, even though it's still on a green screen, but there are like other characters in the area.
This is a real set.
Yeah.
The Outlaw Bar. I want to bring it up a couple things. Did you recognize the actor that offers him death sticks?
No.
He's Mouse from Matrix.
Oh, okay.
Very small roles in both things.
When I saw him, I was like, he looks like somebody, but I didn't think about it. The same character, basically.
And you want to talk about lazy naming? I have to look it up because I want to get it exactly right. I know the last name, but...
Well, while you're looking that up, this death stick thing reminded me of... I saw like a fake thing right before the Obi-Wan series came out, where it was like a plot synopsis of Obi-Wan. And it was literally the plot of Train Spotting, but they replaced heroin with death sticks.
That's great. All right, so the first name is Elan, so Elin, right? Sleazebagano. Sleazebagano.
Sleazebagano. I know who that is. Okay.
Elin Sleazebagano. You want to talk about fucking on-the-button naming? Hey, what's your drug dealer's name? Sleazebagano.
That's not his name. That's just what George calls him. He doesn't like it, but George has a lot of money.
We all do what George says, right? Okay, cool.
George buys a lot of cocaine from this guy. You know Hoth? Not Snow.
Oh, damn. Straight spice?
So yeah, they have their little foot chase, and there is a line from Obi-Wan, another clunky foreshadowing of, why do I get the feeling you're going to be the death of me?
We're all laughing, right? No, we're not.
No.
Like, it's not. Yeah, it's either just too on the nose or you haven't seen the original trilogy because you're a little kid and don't get it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, it's like, it's supposed to be the like exasperated dad father figure line, you know, of like, oh, you're going to kill me or whatever. But George Lucas is like, this is real fucking clever, dude.
Tie it up with a ribbon.
The other thing I wanted to talk about
is why you don't write scripts high. Go ahead.
No, wait, what? I gotta go home and burn a whole bunch of parchment paper. Yeah, that's how I write scripts. The second thing, I think this is the first and only time we see this in Star Wars. We get a plus size Twi'lek female.
I saw her because she turned around and I was like, damn, she's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous, dude. I mean, I mean this with love. This is the first female chubby Twi'lek I think we've ever seen. They're always this like tight ballet stripper body.
Yeah, and aside from, I mean, usually a lot of the ones we've seen are dudes, and the female ones we've seen
They're all strippers.
Well, and they have like very sharp faces, and it's probably like a model stripper kind of thing. The one in Book of Boba Fett is pretty hot too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But like,
you can see her naked in Game of Thrones.
I think she's a real actress.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all real actresses, but you know what I mean.
No, she's
But I
in.
can't think
She's
of who it
in.
is.
She plays Nymphadora Tonks in. That's the thing I said in Harry Potter.
Nymphador, huh?
Yeah,
Got
Nymphadora
it.
Tonks.
Okay.
She also plays.
Nymphador with donks.
I will. I'd have a peek. She also plays. She's a wildling in Game of Thrones. I want to say it's Shay.
Okay.
But either way, you get to see her nipples in Game of Thrones.
All right.
Nerps, dude.
This is just welcome to Mr. Skin, the podcast.
This is just information that lives in the back of my brain. Episode 3 of season 1. No, it's not that. It's not that.
Speaking of beautiful, though, like Natalie Portman is a pretty girl. She always
Yeah,
was.
very
In
much
the
so.
early one, she's much younger. And as a kid, I thought she was attractive, but I was also about the same age as
Yeah,
her.
it was people. It's an age appropriate crush.
But in this movie, she's looking really good.
Yeah.
Especially in the yellow dress when they're having their picnic planet thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, poof. And then I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh, God, she was 21. Thank God.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, the white outfit. I mean, talk about age appropriate crush when this came out. You know, the white outfit when she gets that stomach area torn off and we just show midriff. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. This is also when we see Ahmed Best hanging out in the club watching Obi-Wan chop off this chick's hand, or at least chop the laser out of her hand.
No, there's an appendage missing.
Okay, I thought
this
so.
movie, this franchise loves right arms being cut
I
off.
almost bought a shirt yesterday that said "Casualties of Star Wars," and it was just a bunch of pictures of different arms.
Yeah, dude, it exists. We even get foreshadowing of fucking Anakin's arm being cut off right before it gets cut off.
But they question her, like, who hired you? It was a bounty hunter. Bounty hunter named fucking Dart in the neck.
Yeah, I'll tell you his name. And her last words, I don't know what all of it means, but
Dude, you got a fucking dart in your neck.
I like you, but you're crazy. Yeah, her last words were Slimo. So whoever's like, she's calling somebody just a fucking slimy piece of shit. That's a great last. That's a William Forsythe.
I mean, that's her knowing that he's the one who just killed her because we see Jango Fett, and she's like, fucking asshole, and then dies.
You are a slime bag.
But yeah, like you said, William Forsythe's last words in Stone Cold, right?
Fuck you, cop. Fuck you, Django.
But so she dead. They go back to the Jedi Council to tell them what they've learned. And I never noticed him in the past. I'm sure he was there. Maybe it's just more movement this time. But there's a Snake Man.
Yeah, no, he was in the other one before. He's bearded as fuck.
Yeah. And that's why you see the
his
top.
name,
and I'm like, oh, it's a
blanking on
bunch
his
of guys
name.
with weird heads and beards. And then you see like a tail come out of his like tunic or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa.
No, I know this dude's name. I'm not going to dwell on it much, but he apparently, like his whole backstory, he is super fucking wise and can see all kinds of futures and stuff. It's just that Palpatine is corrupting everything.
We do learn that pretty soon here that the Jedi Council is realizing that the Jedi have less access to the Force, but they're keeping it secret.
Uh-huh.
And that's because it's becoming clouded by the dark side or whatever.
Which, like, at first he makes it seem like it is a balance thing. I think he's toying with plot line of actual balance, you know, where, and balance being for the Jedi, meaning all of us have power and the dark side has none.
Right.
And
That's
I guess
not balance.
I guess same for the dark side too, though. But yeah, because it doesn't really ever come up that you lose access to the Force. But in this, their Force powers are diminishing, and they don't want the Senate to know.
And I mean, they have said in previous future movies that I think somebody mentioned something about like their vision of the Force being clouded.
Yes.
Now, I don't think that's necessarily what he intended at the time. I think it meant like it's harder for me to see, but now he's expanding it into like it's actually clouded by like darkness.
Yeah. And it makes sense, dude. You have inarguably the most powerful Sith of all time. Maybe fucking Marcus Ragnos or something ruled the galaxy, but fucking Palpatine did it, dude.
I'm sorry. Marcus Ragnos?
Yeah.
Like Marcus Aurelius or whatever. Was that his name?
Marcus Aurelius? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that, but not. I mean, there are some Sith Lords, Freedom Nod, Exarchon.
There's Freedom Nod is the dumbest name for a Sith.
Yeah,
and I mean,
but it's
I'm sitting here saying,
NADD, so I think it's NAD.
but I'm sitting here saying that like calling yourself Tyrannus and Sidious is bad, but calling yourself Freedom,
yeah,
doesn't really fit the bill.
The one that started the rule too is Darth Bane. I mean, it's cool. It's cool.
Did he break Batman's back? And
yes, he did.
Batman was his apprentice.
Just snaps Obi-Wan over his fucking knee.
And I have another note here about the CG rooms, and I already said it. I'm not going to harp on it, but this is where it's really noticeable because there's the Jedi Council room, which isn't great. The problem is like Jedi Council and Palpatine's office. You can see that like Mace Windu, Sam Jackson is sitting in a chair, and Palpatine is sitting in a chair, but I'm not even 100% sure that desk is there.
That desk is not there.
And I'm 100% sure that chair that Yoda is sitting in is not there.
I would put money down that what you just said is all correct because you can see it. It doesn't look good.
Yeah, and they're so removed from the backgrounds around them, and like a lot of the CG in this isn't that bad when it's just CG
for the time.
Like when they're in the foundry later where the Terminator dies. All the foundry stuff looks fine.
Yeah.
Until you see
Natalie
Anakin
Portman
or Padme stand up on the conveyor belt. And it's like, oof.
It looked like, what was that fucking, it was an old Nickelodeon game where kids would run an obstacle course and they put a video game behind it.
Oh, Nick Arcade.
Nick Arcade.
Yeah, I love that
That's
shit.
what this looked like.
Yeah.
When anytime you see a live actor, it's Nick Arcade. It begs the question, like, why are we doing this? Like, you know how to make a good set, George.
Yeah.
This is where the volume that we talked about earlier would have a real desk. It's just the background would be the fake
Exactly.
part.
That's the big thing about the volume is everything that's in the room, everything they're interacting with is there.
Yeah.
It's just anything beyond. So they can do those shots of like that are on Tatooine, like Tunisia, where they always shoot Tatooine. Well, I don't know about always. I don't know if they did in this, but like it looks like it's expanding out into the horizon. Because they're on a real set and then the walls make everything look real and go further. Whereas everything looks flat. And like I said, it looks better when it's all CG and not necessarily like with like actors like the clone troopers later. That looks bad. But the droids don't look too bad, and all the worlds and sets don't look that bad. It's just humans, and then when real humans are interacting with it. But the reason I brought it up too was in this scene we see them walking through those big vaulted like hallways, and that's like the worst one because there's some actors in the back walking away, and you can tell they're real actors, and then like it's Obi-Wan and Yoda and Mace maybe are all walking toward the camera and talking.
Yeah.
And like you can tell those are real actors, and the people in the background are real actors, but you can also tell they were shot at different times and they were put together in this fucking Skyrim hallway. Like Skyrim looked a little better, but like, and again, it's 2001, 2002, 2002.
Yep.
So
this is
I
a product
get it,
of the young Indiana Jones. Like he was doing stuff like this in Young Indiana Jones and thought it would translate to big screen.
Oh, was he? Okay, I watched Young Indiana Jones, but when I was a bab wannabe Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Like when it was on, like in
when I
93.
used to carry a bullwhip.
Fucking 8-year-olds don't know the difference.
Just happy to be there.
So yeah, this is where Anakin is telling Padme that he's better than Obi-Wan, and he's throwing a fucking tissy fit and like tossing shit around the room. Which is not the last time he does that in this movie. He just throws shit like an angry teenager.
Mom!
I mean, I guess he is a teenager, but still.
He's 8 teenager.
8 teenager?
He's 8 teenager.
But he does have the exact line, "It's not fair." And he tosses some shit. It's like, dude, life ain't fair.
Was he supposed to be younger?
This is a Jake Lloyd scene.
Yeah. This is you aged him up like 3 years.
More cringy dialogue. She tells him not to grow up too fast. And his response is like, "But I am grown up. You said it yourself."
Yeah. Look, I'm growing.
And then she's like, "Don't look at me like that." Why not?
Makes me very fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah, she literally says it makes me uncomfortable. This obviously came out long before like people started acknowledging that women should be treated like humans.
For sure.
Which is sad because it's 2002. We should have figured that out.
Still in the dark time.
But like it makes me uncomfortable. My bad.
Sorry. Dude, and he gets all fucking, what's his name from Grandma's Boy? Milady. Sorry, Milady.
Yeah. He just closes his eyes. He's like, "Okay, I'm not staring." And he starts sniffing.
You smell better when you're awake.
But so now Anakin has to take her into hiding Terrible idea. And Obi-Wan is
I believe it was
gonna go
Palpatine, though.
investigate.
I think it's Palpatine
Yeah.
influencing all this.
Which I understand he's like the Supreme Chancellor, but I feel like the Jedi Council is above him, especially when it comes to what Jedis are doing.
Yes, it is. I mean, he could order her, because he even said it's an executive order. He can order her there. The Jedi can just say, we're not sending anybody.
I guess that's fair. They're
But
like,
I
well, we
think,
have to
again,
send someone.
Force aura.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, hey, Yoda, bro, send Annie.
So Obi-Wan starts investigating the assassin, and that's when he's in the computer diner talking to the four-armed man who's scratching his ass.
Yeah, Dex, who is, I always forget how to pronounce it. It's like Basilisk. That might be the name of their race, Basilisk. In Clone Wars, the cartoon, one of these guys is a Jedi that goes rogue and is terrifying because he carries 2 Darth Maul-style double-bladed lightsabers.
It would be terrifying if it was this guy and not this guy.
Yeah.
Like this is the divorced stepdad version.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's the fat one who's given up on life. Not unlike me.
I can relate.
And you know, the Jedi one is the one who's like, nah, bro, I worked out after she left
Fuck
me.
yeah.
Why in this universe is the waitress droid like a diner flow waitress?
Well, and he's a greasy spoon fucking chef. Like,
Yeah,
or
and
cook.
he's a big creature, and we've seen big greasy ones. Or not yet, I guess. Well, we have. We've seen Jabba, but the one that Simon Pegg plays, they're all, like all the fat ones, and all the fat aliens are greasy and gross.
Yeah. But I think it's just George being clever. Like, I like diners. I wanted to see a diner in this movie.
The parents will see it and they'll go, "Huh, that's like our diner."
That's funny. She offered him Jawa juice. Did you hear that? Jawa juice. Is that juice from a Jawa?
That's what I was going to ask
or
you.
Or juice for a Jawa. It
That's
doesn't make
what I was
sense.
going to ask you. I was thinking in my head, like, it's their version of coffee because Java. But then I'm like,
Sure.
no, Jawas are a thing, though.
No, I think it's just somebody being clever. It would be like, all right, a term that's not great now, but back in the day, like jungle juice. It's an ethnic thing.
I was thinking maybe it was like when you go to like a Planet Hollywood or something, and they're like, we have Skywalker nuggets. You know?
Those are just chicken nuggets, dude.
They just put a name on it.
It might be because there's very few, if any, Jawas that are going to Coruscant.
Yeah.
And fucking Tatooine and all these other Outer Rim planets are so far away.
So it's like it's a novelty to them.
Yes, exactly. Right. It would be like what's Willy Wonka, the Oompa Loompas.
Okay.
Like, you want an Oompa Loompa fucking sauce? No, I've never wanted anything less.
So we find out about Camino because the poison dart that was used is from there.
Which, come on, Django, you're better than that, dude.
And like,
throw him off.
So it's beyond the Outer Rim. So the Outer Rim is where Tatooine and Dave Navarro and all those are, right? Dave Navarro's been in the Outer Rim for a long time.
You betcha.
Is this like, this isn't as far as like Thrawn is from?
No, because you need a whole separate
something.
That's
deep reaches. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
I'm listening to the books. And I have no idea what he's.
So, but you need a very special drive even just to reach out there.
Because you have to get through like the fucked up space, the chaos or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I guess maybe a Jedi could, but no, it's not that far.
Okay,
or it's not that place.
Okay, well I know it's not that planet, but it could be. That planet's all frozen. Maybe this planet got cold.
No, this is a whole different thing. So these cloners of the Kaminoans are clones of themselves usually.
Okay.
And this movie doesn't show it, but in the cartoon and the comics and the books, their pupil color, they all have the same eyes here and they're awesome. Their pupil color tells you what they are. Intellectual, worker, royalties, shit like that.
But this is about as far as I've ever made it. Now I've watched the movie all the way through once.
Okay.
But I always make it to this point. I've 4 or 5 times, and this is about the time I fall asleep.
Because it's boring. It's a fucking sterile environment. I understand we talk about this whole thing being CG, but this is white on white with white light. And
when it goes outside, it's just rain and waves.
And I get that you're cloners, and it should be a sterile environment, but it doesn't have to be boring sterile. This is absolutely overlit, and especially with Obi-Wan looking like Jesus, this is the gates of fucking heaven, dude.
The facility that they were in and the island that we covered on Bad Movies Where's People looks more like a real place than this. And that looks like some stupid sterile
Ewan
bullshit.
McGregor.
That's right. Didn't even think of that. I was just thinking of another
Ewan
place
McGregor.
that's full of clones.
Speaking of video games, dude, that you didn't talk about, The Force Unleashed 2 has a level that is on Camino, and it's very fun.
Okay.
It looks so much better.
I started playing 2. I never got through. I just started the beginning of it.
I'll
but
give you
1
my
was
review.
great.
I'll give you my review number 2. It's fun.
Yeah.
The story for 1 is so amazing, and 2 is like, man, it's all right.
Yeah, and the story of 1 was great, and then pulling a fucking Star Destroyer out of the sky. One of the
Few
coolest
has
things.
felt better.
It's a stupid kind of mini game. I didn't like the turn this way, turn
Yeah,
that way thing, but it was just doing that. When I first heard about the game, I was like, well, maybe it should be cool, but who knows?
And you got General, his name's Coda. You got rip it from the sky. You're like, fuck yeah.
And that was back when I read Game Informer, and it was like, yeah, there's definitely a sequence where you tear a Star Destroyer out of the sky, and I was like, oh, I'm playing this fucking game.
Yeah. Also, I wish you wouldn't have told me. Like, I would have.
So then we have this snooty librarian, right?
Joe Costa knew.
Good God. Why do these people all have names? Books and toys.
Nerds like me.
Is there a toy of the librarian?
I guarantee you Joe Costanew has a fucking toy.
Little kids are just recreating this scene. He's like, I can't find it. And she's like, no, it must not be there then.
The library's perfect, you dumb cunt.
You stupid motherfucker, we don't miss anything.
If it's not here, it's not there. Get on with it.
So she survives Order 66.
I don't know why she's a Punch and Judy puppet, but
Oh, we nicked this information. We stole it, didn't it?
She survives Order 66. She tries to start, because she's a librarian, so she's smart. She tries to start like a new Jedi temple thing, and then Darth Vader just fucking murks her.
and this thing goes into a whole segment that could be cut out to shorten this movie by 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because he sees, okay, it's missing, but I have these coordinates. And then we have another scene of him going to Yoda
And the younglings.
and talking to Yoda and a bunch of shitbirds who have to point out to him, yeah, there's nothing there. And he's the one who points out, but the gravity shows there is. So then little shitbird is like, so fucking go there.
It's supposed to be a clever moment of like, oh, out of the mouth of babes, you were too dumb to realize. No, he said it. And this little, like, you should have known. And Yoda, of all people, should have been like, there's a planet there, dude.
Yeah, and that whole scene doesn't need to be here.
But I will go back real quick to I think there's a bust of Count Dooku in this library, but there definitely is a bust of George Lucas.
Is there?
Yeah, there's a bronze George Lucas, and good on him.
Yeah, he keeps that in his bedroom, right above his bed.
Cranks to it. Oh my God, look at him. Oh.
Is that why, what was her name? Martha?
Martha.
Was that his wife's name?
I think so, yeah.
Martha. That's why he never fought Batman. But that's
write
probably
a scene with me fighting Batman.
that's why she left him, because he always wanted to make eye contact with his own bust, not hers.
Do you want to have sex tonight, George? Would you mind wearing the me mask?
I'm gonna call you Darth Lucas.
Somebody told me to go fuck myself once, and I want to.
He just puts a pocket pussy in the bus.
All right, you thought a little bit too much about that.
But this is another cringy line. We're back with Padme and Anakin, and she's like, oh, it must be hard being a Jedi. You can't go visit the places you want to go or whatever. And he's like, or be with the people you want to be with.
Calm down, guy. I'm making small talk. Keep it in your pants.
I get that they're trying to convey that he's in love with her. They're trying to somehow he convinces her to love him. But he doesn't, they never have a scene where he's not being creepy and flirtatious.
Yeah.
Every
He's a fucking
scene
simp.
is him trying to do that. And it's the people on Reddit and shit who blame other people for them not getting laid because this is how they act. It's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. Chicks just don't get me. Yeah, dude, it's cringy. And yeah, you're right. He's going to blame no, it's just, she's just misinterpreted. No.
This isn't a pickup line when he tells her oh, you're exactly how I remember you in my dreams. No.
You don't say that.
And we didn't mention, I don't think, but one of the first things she says to him when he starts flirting with her the second he meets her, and she's like, you're always going to be that little boy to me.
Yep.
Champ.
Just, hey, slugger. Just gives a little rap on the chin. Oh, man, that's the hardest friend zone you're ever going to get. You'll always be that little boy to me, champ.
And then there's another skippable scene that we mentioned earlier where she's explaining that they get 2 terms, and he's like, but they tried to change the Constitution. All this stuff. Unnecessary because it doesn't add anything.
You can actually, I know that we need a bit of a love story, kind of, but in my opinion, the way they're shot, you can skip all the Padme Anakin scenes that are just them two. They're all skippable
because every single one are the lines that I've been quoting. That's 2/3 of my notes is the cringy things Anakin says.
Yeah,
it's just
the improv scene. I mean, or the off the cuff kind of thing.
Also, by the way, why the fuck are you eating a pear with a knife and a fork?
Yeah, you're weird. This whole
And then
thing
you
is
cut
weird.
right through the
And
middle of it?
I know you're trying to like show off your force powers, like, oh, I could levitate a pear and slice it. No, like fucking, I don't know, snap your fingers and make her bra loosen or something.
Waiting for him to like levitate it right down her throat. Like he goes too far. And she's like, and he's like, sorry, I was thinking about something. And
Just checking if he had a gag reflex.
but he levitates it onto her fork.
Yeah,
It's so dumb.
It's a dumb scene.
So yeah, she's like, if the Senate votes to create an army, it will lead to civil war. We find out that Newt Gunray is still in charge of the Trade Federation. I feel like someone should have deposed him at this point. The government does exist.
Yeah. But what it is it's Palpatine somehow kept him in power.
I know it's all the machinations of Palpatine, but it just seems so like no one's giving a shit.
Yeah, it's so
Like,
blatant.
Yeah, he like puts this stuff in motion, and they're like, "Well, we should get rid of that guy," but like we're only supposed to meet 3 times a year. Yeah. Oh, that's our Congress. Never mind.
we talked about bloat. You know, in the expanded universe, there's bloat in the Senate. Like everyone's just so fucking fat and happy with where they are.
Yeah.
You know, just bureaucrats and whatnot, and just the kickdowns. Everyone's so fat and happy. They're like, why shake it up? The Gunray's not doing anything wrong to us. It's just Naboo. This is Naboo's the equivalent of like a beautiful isle of like just off of Italy. You know, like it's a little small island that it's there, but we don't really care.
So it's like Naboo is Ukraine.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world is the Senate. And they're like, well, I mean, I'm worried.
You're not wrong. That's a great fucking
But I
analogy.
wanna go home.
It's like, well, I'll say boo.
Not that I'm advocating World War III, which is what would happen if other people started joining in.
No, we never should have poked that bear. But yeah, that's a great analogy because it's like I see this happening, but
So Obi-Wan goes to the blank space in the map, and surprise, here's Kamino.
oh,
And they're like, "Oh, we were expecting you, Mr. Jedi." And he is the worst at pretending that he knows what's going on. He's like, "Wait, what army?"
This is
they
like a
tell him,
fucking-
and he's like, "Oh, right, that army. That's what I was here for."
this is like a Steve Carell if he was a Jedi, like The Office. Like, play it cool. The what army? It's so fucking bad. You're right. Like, how do they not know? Like, we're talking to somebody that has no clue what we're talking about.
And that's what I kept. And again, I'm always asleep at this point, so I kept waiting for like when she sees him out towards the end of this segment, this very long segment.
I do like meeting Jango Fett, and we're about to.
Well, and that's one of the only useful scenes in this. You meet Jango Fett.
Dad, Tom Way's here. Love that delivery from Daniel Logan, man. That's awesome.
Go on, Bubba.
Go on, Papa.
Like I said to you off the air, like if you have this accent, don't name your kid Boba
Yeah.
because you can't say it.
I think he just said Bubba, and everyone's like, oh, your son's name is Boba. Yes, that's not what I said. I said Bubba. Yeah, Bubba.
That guy talks with a weird accent. Every time he says something, just change the vowels. So it must be Boba.
Boba Fett.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to put
You don't know what I'm what?
I'm going to put on overalls, my Boba Fett helmet, and a big giant straw hat. I'm going to be Boba Fett for Halloween. Oh, this is the way.
But we get the most famous cringy line. Anakin and Padme are looking at the ocean, and she's got this whole thing about how she loves the water, and they used to lie on the sand to dry and guess the names of the birds and all this stuff.
Is this after she told him about her virginity story?
Oh,
Because that's a weird
Was it a
thing.
virginity or was it a first kiss?
I think it was virginity. We're just not going to talk about it.
She's like
Anyway.
describing him, and he's like, "Yeah, I've heard enough."
That's enough. Oh, he had thick black hair, giant cock.
He looked the opposite of you. It was
balls
great.
that wouldn't quit. Yeah, think of yourself now. Forget it, and add in anybody else.
Think of yourself in like 20 years, but not a monster.
I know you don't know who Jason Momoa is yet, but I got fucked by Jason Momoa type.
He came out of the water.
Lucky.
It's Aquaman.
That's why she loves the water. Oh, it's all connected.
But he has that line, "I don't like sand."
It's coarse, it's dirty, it gets everywhere.
So he says, "It's not like here. Here, everything is soft and smooth." Now, I know he's talking about Padme because he's a creep. But
Naboo is very green.
But the sand they're talking about is here because she literally just said we laid on that sand.
Yeah, but he's talking about besides
Tatooine
the beach,
versus Naboo, I guess.
Yeah, Naboo is green and it's fucking moist and it's soft and ugh.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But yeah, the
It's
delivery
so
is the
soft, he
absolute
strokes her
worst.
arm.
Yeah, come
Yeah.
off it.
And then she falls for it and they kiss.
Because she's getting corrupted, yo. This fuckboy.
I'm with you. He's doing it, maybe not intentionally, but
I think it's latent.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows he's doing it, but he's just like, God, I want her. It's like, imagine the times that you've been like, God, I wish that girl would just fucking bend over right now. Or just whatever it might be, like, notice me, notice me, notice me, notice me. Except it's working. And all of a sudden the chick's like, I noticed that big fucking ginger over there. Oh, what's he doing pouring out of that Hawaiian shirt?
So she backs away and like, I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. You're just a boy.
Shouldn't have done that. You're just a Padawan.
And we go back to Camino and we're in like the Matrix clone area
Uh-huh.
here with all the
You got
pods.
baby tubes.
And this is after the Matrix, so
Yeah.
it's pretty clear. I mean, I feel like we've probably seen things like that before the Matrix, but it's pretty clear influence because it's like the saucers with tubes that have growing humans in them, and there's huge stacks of them as far as you can see.
And with who George Lucas is as a person, I guarantee you he enjoyed The Matrix. Like,
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, it's groundbreaking. Look
no,
at
he
this.
fucking hated the Matrix because episode 1 came out like what 3 or 4 weeks after the Matrix. People were still going to the Matrix. He's like, listen, motherfuckers.
This movie didn't. This is the only Star Wars movie that I can think of. I think it. All right, yeah, this is a true fact. I'm making it up. No, this is the only Star Wars movie not to end at the top of the movie list.
Oh, really?
It was dethroned by Christopher Lee in The Two Towers
Okay.
and Spider-Man. It came in third.
99 was a fucking year.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you said
No,
this
this
movie.
one. This
So
one.
2002 was a fucking
Yeah.
year. Two Towers, which is probably the best Lord of the Rings.
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man, the first one.
and then this.
Good God.
And this made buku dollars. Like in the U.S., I think it initially made like $310 million. Like for the
You're used to saying 1,000 from our other podcast, right?
yeah. I mean, dude, I'm so used to not this much money. Like, they don't mean $1 million. They don't mean 310 million. But like worldwide, it did with U.S. and worldwide it was like 600+ million, and that's still I think one of the lowest, if not the lowest, Star Wars movie.
I think Solo was the lowest, unless you're talking about like just the main,
You know what? So I forgot Solo existed for a second. Solo might be lower.
because it had all that negative press and all the Reddit stuff, and
I can't wait to talk about Solo.
we're almost there.
You are going to hear a juxtaposition from me. It's crazy. And it's Obi-Wan interrogating Jango Fett, like, hey,
Oh, yeah, that's
did
right.
Sifo Dyas, like, I never met no fucking Sifo Dyas.
I
It
met a
was
Tyrannus.
Tyrannus on, and I want to say this real quick. There is a comic that has Count Dooku watching Jango Fett kill 6 Jedi without any guns. Like he stabs one, he beats one with a rock. I mean, like this Jango Fett was the bad motherfucker.
But
And-
much like the original trilogy, we don't see that here.
Exactly, we don't see it. But I like knowing that now and watching this again. I feel this disdain that Jango Fett has for Jedi. He fucking hates them.
And Obi-Wan has a suspicion. I don't know if he has if he can feel him or
he knows.
whatever. But
I think he spotted that fucking armor.
oh, okay, because Bubba does close the door.
Also, all right, let's just say this: you got a fucking hitman that came from an assassin with a dart that came from Camino, and here is a beautiful, great bounty hunter on Camino. It's like, well, how many of these do you have here?
Yeah. And when he's first asked him, ever been to Coruscant? I was like, once or twice.
He has a line that I use to this day. I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in this universe. It's great, dude. It's still a Star Wars movie, so I'm gonna enjoy it.
And we do have one more cringy line where he's like, Anakin, not a day's gone by I haven't thought of you, thought of being with you, or with the thought of being with you, I can't breathe.
Keep it in your fucking pants.
And this is a theme. He says this, and later on she says, I've been dying since I met you, or whatever. Somehow that means you're in love?
yeah.
Is this George Lucas still being bitter about his divorce? He's like, because I think that's what happened in those early movies. Because
No.
there's like a powerful, like there's Leia and she's like a boss in the first one, and then starts getting a divorce and stuff, and he's like, actually, she's a slave.
She's a dumb bitch. No, this is him writing to his gold bust of himself. Every day since I've met you, I've been dying a little bit because I can't be with you. I can't be inside of you.
But yeah, he's fucking too much. And she tells him basically like this relationship not possible.
Yeah,
it's not
can't
happening
happen.
because you're a Montague, right? And I'm
Yeah.
a Capulet, and we can't be together.
You can't get a Montague and a Capulet together.
I mean, because basically she's like, you're a priest and I'm the president. Like, it's kind of what she says to him. Like,
all right, look, dude, I'm this fucking senator, right? And you're just this priest. You have to encourage, by the way, Jedi should be allowed to have sex, right? Just because you can't have attachment doesn't mean you can't have physical pleasure. Another misinterpretation. What happens in this world that we occupy when you tell men that procreation and sex is wrong? They end up diddling little boys. You gotta let them fuck.
yeah.
Men or women.
You do have a bunch of dudes in robes hanging out with little kids.
You gotta let them fucking have consensual sex, man.
They get all bottled up.
And this is why the Jedi, like, I still, something the sequel trilogy does great. The Jedi need to die in the form that we have. This dogma is way too much. Qui-Gon Jinn was right. You're reading way too much into literal translation. You're not listening to the Force anymore.
Yeah.
You're
taking your scripts literally and not.
You're emotionless. You're not fucking like, it's not a no attachment thing. It's a nothing. You're a fucking nihilist.
Them
dude.
going off their old scripture is kind of like without when people don't like reinterpret like things that were said in like the Constitution or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, this and this and this, and it's like, well, it says that. And you're like, well, it meant this.
That was written in 1776. Like,
was it life or happiness and the pursuit of, or it's not the pursuit of happiness was what people say.
Yeah.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is life, liberty, and property.
Yeah. Stuff, dude.
Yeah, like people say the pursuit of happiness now, but that's not what the Constitution says, and that's not the way people act in office. All right, that's a good place to cut that off. This has been Han Took Shots First. Join us in 2 weeks for the second half of this episode. We're also going to be covering The Acolyte as it releases because this is a in-order podcast and The Acolyte takes place way before any of this. So between the episodes for the main series, you'll be getting those episodes. But so now, while The Acolyte's running, you'll have an episode of Han Took Shots First every week, every single Wednesday without fail.